Scott just made
Go
the
back to
point,
Thomas
Jefferson
Jefferson,
used
you'll
to be
read
a
that-
lot more secure, not just... This was my introduction to David Bowie more than 30 years ago as a boy at 13 or 14 years old. That sound, that suit, I so wanted to be that guy. I think I still do, and that wasn't even his best album, I would find out shortly. We lost Bowie on Monday following a secret battle with cancer just days after his 69th birthday and the release of his final album, Black Star. I gave it a listen for the first time just hours after the news of his death, and Bowie was still pushing boundaries on that album, still going where few artists dare, literally right up until the very end. I'm Steve Green, this is Trifecta, and let's bring on Scott Ott and Bill Whittle to reflect on the long career of one of rock's most intriguing and enduring performers. And of course, he wasn't just David Bowie. He was Major Tom. He was Ziggy Stardust, Aladdin Sane, the Thin White Duke. He was the Goblin King. He was even the man who fell to earth. Scott, how do you sum up the career of a man who was so many things to so many people? His musical career, it spanned glam, experimental rock, alternative soul, pop, funk, new wave, hard rock, and more. How do you sum up a life that stretched from the darkest drugs and sex days of the 70s to spending his last quarter century as a devoted and intensely private family man? And you know, Scott, you've had a rock band way back when. How does someone create even one successful stage persona, much less, I don't know, half a dozen or more?
You don't sum that up. You let the music speak for itself. As every artist would hope to be remembered, you let the art speak for itself. You know, I was trying to think of David Bowie was, it's hard to describe today because there are so many interesting characters in popular music today and so many who are trying to be interesting characters. But David Bowie really stood alone in the 1970s. There was nobody like him. And I guess, you know, if we were to do a mashup now and create a David Bowie, we would take Frank Zappa and Lady Gaga and Elvis Presley and put them all together into one, because this guy had a charisma that, bar none, I mean, on stage, as you saw, even in that performance, which, as you point out, was kind of a pretty poppy kind of thing for Bowie. A lot of his stuff was edgier than that. But he had the ability to compose that Frank Zappa had, that to do stuff that he knew would never be pop music, and yet he did it for the sake of the music. And then he had the power of the Elvis Presley persona that once you went into that room, it didn't matter what he did in that concert. You were with him. You were going to be with him all the way through. I myself have also started listening to Black Star, the album, and I thought, you know what? You can't listen to this album while you're going about your daily stuff, and you have to put the headphones on and hunker down in that chair and listen.
Yeah, like Bowie, it demands your full attention. Bill, whether this is fair or not, I was thinking more of as being a movie guy than a music guy. And Bowie, of course, was also a highly acclaimed actor, even if he stuck mostly to supporting roles. He might have been most famous for playing Thomas Jerome Newton, the man who fell to Earth, an alien who came here to get water for his dying planet, but ended up, of course, being seduced by earthly pleasures. But my favorite of his more recent roles might just resonate with you. In Christopher Nolan's Prestige, Bowie had a supporting role as inventor, physicist, engineer, everything guy, Nikola Tesla. I want you to watch this clip. It was his first scene as Tesla in the movie.
So, this is the great Denton. Mr. Ellie has effused about your act to me on any number of occasions. Hold out other hand.
What's conducting the electricity?
Our bodies, Mr. Angier, are quite capable of conducting and indeed producing energy.
Now, Bill, you're a screenwriter, a former film editor. Tell me, is it possible for an actor to pack more into a 30-second intro that has actually very little dialogue?
I'm going to have to eject from this question, Steve, because I didn't see The Prestige, and I think David Bowie was a terrific actor, and he's a self-deprecating actor. But I do want to talk about a little bit about the music and a couple of experiences I had with him.
Yeah.
First time I ever saw David Bowie, I think I was 12 or 13 years old. And you have to understand, folks, at this point I was well into my astronaut training, getting prepped for the Mars mission I was going to command. I mean, I was Mr. Apollo, straight-laced kind of mission control kind of guy. And one night, it was a Friday or Saturday night, it was either on Don Kirshner's rock concert or the Midnight Special. It was one of those two things. Bowie came on about 1973, I want to guess. It was about late at night, and he came on and did Major Tom in like this butterfly outfit in the Ziggy Stardust kind of thing. And I became so violently enraged that I actually thought I was going to kick the TV, and I was so absolutely destructively angry that this thin, weird, heroin-looking guy was going to talk about being an astronaut. I lost my mind. I was so pissed off. And then in 1985, 86, I started working in a nightclub. And well before then, I started listening to his music. But 85, 86, I had a double-breasted jacket with shoulder pads out to, like to here. And I had a thin white satin tie, and I had a pair of pants with one zipper down one leg, and I had hair down to like here, and I was working in the booth, and by this point, I think Modern Love is one of the great dance songs of all time, and I just couldn't get enough of the guy. I probably got 5 or 6 of his songs on my iPhone now. Modern Love is a terrific dance tune, and there's a line in Let's Dance, we just caught the end of it at the beginning of this clip, put on your red shoes and dance the blues. I mean, okay, man, I'm right there. Put on your red shoes and dance the blues. So that was actually my favorite album. That and China Girl, they were terrific. But the guy you can't really even call him a genius, because there's a lot of geniuses out there. There's a lot of people with talent, but there's one of the great artists of the world, there's one in a million that just defines a look and a sound and an era and locks it down. And while he had many contemporaries, there's even the Rolling Stones, who are so iconic, they're not Bowie. Bowie was just so iconic. And I feel bad about my first reaction to him, because I never realized how tongue-in-cheek the whole thing was, how mocking of it really was. Ashes to Ashes is a Ashes to Ashes is a commentary on Major Tom. Ashes to ashes, funk to funky, we know Major Tom's a junkie, caught up in heaven's high, hitting an all-time low. I mean, that's just that self-reference, that mockery of the pretense of it. That's what I liked about the guy. And I think my favorite David Bowie moment was when he made an appearance on Extra, the Ricky Gervais show, and he was just in a lounge at the center of attention, and just being David Bowie and chatting up some beautiful girl. And Ricky Gervais comes in and says, "Yeah, I'm an entertainer. I kind of do, this kind of catchphrase comedy." And Bowie just sits there and on the fly composes this just totally soul-destroying song. And the reason I like that so much is there's Ricky Gervais making fun of himself, here's David Bowie making fun of himself. And I guess the final comment would be, one thing we learn about people like Barack Obama is that people who can't make fun of themselves are fundamentally insecure people. Ronald Reagan used to joke about his age and everything else all the time. David Bowie's been making fun of himself since he's been David Bowie. The whole thing has been a commentary on the experience, and that comes from the kind of breakout genius that once in a generation talent, and I'm really going to miss it. And what a way to go. To write a love letter to your fans about dying and releasing it after you're dead. I mean, few of us are going to be that lucky, I think.
Yeah, he was never better billed than when he was playing David Bowie, whether it was
that's exactly
on
what I meant
stage,
to
on
say.
film, or on his albums. And I'm not sure we ever saw the real David Bowie until just this week with his new albums.
But as you folks, pointed out, his family did. That's the thing that's really great about the guy. He didn't, he lived a life in the public eye, but he had an actual life. He actually did, and he was a family man and a private guy. So I don't care that I didn't get to know that guy. It's none of my business. But it's good to know that he existed.
It is indeed. You know, folks, I've been a fan a long time. I pre-ordered Black Star, his final album, a couple of months ago, literally moments after Amazon sent me the heads-up email that it was coming out. And like a good fan, I waited as patiently as I could for it to arrive. And, of course, it ends up arriving at the house while my wife and I were enjoying a long weekend up in the mountains. So I spent the weekend just gritting my teeth, even though I was having a great time, but just waiting to get home and give this new Bowie album a listen. And as we were packing our suitcases Monday morning, I picked up my phone and I saw the headline, David Bowie dead after battle with cancer. Now, I'm not one of these people who gets choked up much over celebrity deaths, but I have to tell you, this one hit me. And I wondered, it was kind of a selfish moment, but I wondered whether I should listen to Black Star for the first time while the shock was still fresh, or should I wait a week or two? Well, we got home, and of course, I couldn't wait, and I'm glad I didn't. Black Star, it's Bowie's most haunting work, but it's still unmistakably, and maybe for the first time, unmasked David Bowie. And I'd like to give you a small preview to get you started. So for Bill Whittle and Scott Ott, I'm Steve Green.
Look up here, I'm in heaven. I've got scars that can't be seen.